Hey guys, it's Dom from mobiledom.co.uk, and today I have my MWC Predictions video. MWC is a trade show put on in February in Barcelona every year, and what we usually see at MWC is phones, is mobile devices, but it's what we think we're going to see at CES, and what we don't see. Pardon me, I've got hiccups. What we don't see at CES that we want to see, like in phones, usually comes at CES, at MWC, or they'll show, or manufacturers will show a product in a really probably not even turning on form at CES, and then they'll show a pre-production alpha unit or beta unit at MWC to ship later on. But I'm gonna say my predictions, and then obviously in the comments you guys can discuss if you think I'm right or wrong. The first company is Samsung, and what we think is going to be shown is the Galaxy S3. Obviously last year was the year of the Galaxy S2. It was widely regarded as the best Android device of the time, and still now. It's got the blazing fast Exynos chip, which is made by Samsung, which is why it's so fast. It's got the stellar 8 megapixel camera. It's ridiculously thin even a year later at 8.5 millimeters. And it's got the gorgeous Super AMOLED Plus screen. Now, a bit of bad news about the S3. I personally don't think it will be shown this year. Me and Pura from PD Tech HD, we were having a little chat, and I said, if they do show the S3, it won't be in a working form. It'll probably be a sort of like they did with the Tab 10 one and the 8.9, the thin ones. They will show ones that don't turn on or aren't completely finished, and later on when it's nearer to the time they'll hold their own press event and sell them that way. But the S3, from what we're hearing the rumoured specs are, is going to be a monster. A quad-core Samsung CPU, I think it's the 4510, the Exynos 4510, a 720p 4.6-inch Super AMOLED screen, even thinner than the S2, a 12 megapixel camera. I mean, this is going to be boss, man. It's going to be what? So, yeah, that's one thing. And also, the next generation of Galaxy tablets. Oh, whoops, that's my phone there. Not important. Yeah, the next generation of Galaxy tablets. These are rumoured to be using the new Exynos chipset, the 5250, and while it may only be a dual core chip, it runs at 2 GHz, and they're Cortex A15s instead of the A9s used in the current dual core phones. And I think the A15 is 40% faster, and the 5250 is capable of pushing resolutions of 2560 by 1600. Put that in perspective. That's higher than the monitor I'm recording this on. I've got a 19-inch monitor at 1366 by 768. This tablet at a 10.1 or 11.6-inch screen is 2560 by 1600. So higher resolution on a smaller screen. That's crazy, guys. I mean, you can watch a 1080p screen and have space left over. But also, I think all the new Galaxy tablets are going to be using the 5250. I also believe we're going to see more Galaxy Tabs using the Super AMOLED Plus screen. I don't think they're all going to have the 2560 by 1600 screen. I think the lower ones, like maybe another Tab 7 refresh or something similar to that, will have 1280 by 800, a bit like the Tab 7.7. Pardon me. Alright, let's move on to HTC. HTC are going to, I believe, show about at least three Android devices. The Edge, the Ville or the Ville, and the Primo. The Edge is rumoured to be the first quad-core Tegra 3 phone. It's supposed to have ICS, which is Ice Cream Sandwich, Android 4.0. It's supposed to have Sense 4.0, which Pocket now had an exclusive leak on. A 720p screen, and I believe an 8 megapixel camera, but that thing is just going to be boss. It's going to be super thin. I think it's like 8 millimeters. Next up is the Ville, or the Ville, and that is rumored to have a 4.3 inch 720p screen, so the same as on the Resound. It's also rumored to be super thin. I think it's got a 1.5 gigahertz dual core Snapdragon. I think the Ville is going to be a slimmed down Europe version of the Resound, if I'm honest. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but from what the leaks sound like, that's what I think we're going to get. And the Primo is quite interesting. It's being labelled as the budget Beats device, which basically means, as you know, HTC have a stake in Beats Audio, like the new phones like the Sensation XC, the Sensation XL, the Resound. All these phones have Beats Audio tech inside them, and all those phones are incredibly expensive. The Primo is supposed to have a 1 GHz dual-core CPU, a 3.7 inch Super AMOLED screen, ICS, Sense 4.0, and Beats. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't care if the camera's going to be crap. I think it's only supposed to be a 5 megapixel camera, so the same as on the Desire. It's not a great camera. Oh, the Desirette, sorry. Not a great camera, but with the rest of those specs, I don't think I'd actually care. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of HTC Sense. I mean, I had a Desire Z for a while, and I took Sense off, or as much as I could anyway. I used different keyboards, I used a different lock screen, I used a different launcher, wherever I could to get away from HTC Sense. Alright, next on to LG. And LG has, I believe, is only going to be 2 refreshed. I don't think they're going to come out with any new spectacular devices. But the Optimus 3D successor and the Optimus 2X successor. Right, let's go on with the 3D first. I think the PhoneDog got a sort of, I don't think it's a leak, but they got a bit of info that it's going to be called the Optimus 3D Max. Not like Motorola and the Razr Max with 2 X's. It's going to have one. I don't think. Well, it's just because LG aren't that cool. They can't pull off the 2 X's. But yeah, I think it's if I believe rightly, it's going to have a dual-core 1.5 GHz chip. It's going to have another 4.3 inch WVGA screen, so it's 800 by 480, and from what I heard, it's going to have something like 4 GB of internal memory. Now, the Optimus 2X successor seems a bit more interesting. It's what I'm going to call it the 4X, obviously. It might be LG's at least first quad Tegra 3 phone. If you don't remember, the 2X was the world's first dual-core phone. It was the first phone to run the Tegra 2 chipset. It came out in December 2010. Had a 4-inch WVGA IPS screen, so the same tech that's on the iPhone, just at a lower resolution on a higher screen. Sorry, itchy eye. 8 megapixel camera, 1080p video capture. The device was good. I mean, it had a bit of lag, but I'd put that down to LG's skin, and it had a pretty good camera from what I remember. I had one for about a week or so. But yeah, the 4X I think was like 4.3 inch. No, 4.5. I think it's a 4.5 inch 720p screen with obviously Tegra 3 and something like 16 GB of internal memory. So, and it's going to be thin, something like less than 9 millimeters. So I think that could be cool. I'd have a look at that, definitely. Alright, and now on to Sony. And yes, you heard right, Sony, not Sony Ericsson, as yesterday the EU approved Sony to buy out Ericsson. So it's now just Sony. And there's 2, the Nippon, or the Nippon, and the Tapioca. The Nippon, or Nippon, it looks to be a bit more interesting. It's got a bit of a weird shape. Do you remember there was a render of that Nokia that some student had designed? It had a massive bulge at the bottom, but when it had like a weight in it, so if you put it down the table, it'd sit up at an angle. You could knock it down and it'd like bob back up, and that had a kinetic charger in it, and that was pretty cool. And Techno Buffalo have got a leaked picture of what I believe is the Nippon. I'll put a link to it, but it looks a bit like that, and I hope it is that way instead of that way, because if it is that way, that means that's the That's the camera bump, and that'd just be really top heavy. So I hope the little bold is at the bottom. At least that's how it's being held in those photos anyway. And then the next is the tapioca. We don't have much on the tapioca, and to be honest, I don't really care. With a name like that, it sounds to be incredibly boring. But I hope that they put the stupid, boring name on the tapioca and are going to come out with something like a 1080p phone with like a 6-core processor, and like it's going to be like 2mm thin. So do it, Sony, do it. And last but not least is Nokia. And those of you who followed CES know that Nokia announced the Lumia 900 as an AT&T exclusive in the United States. Now the Lumia 900 is basically the 800 with a 4.3-inch screen and LTE. And LTE, for you who don't know, is long-term evolution. Which is 4G. It's based on GSM, so it uses SIM cards. But GSM phones like AT&T, T-Mobile UK, O2, Orange 3, every UK carrier, most European carriers, and AT&T and T-Mobile US all use GSM, so they won't need an extra SIM card slot. But CDMA carriers like Sprint and Verizon, they use CDMA. So what's it called? Phones like the LG Spectrum on Verizon has a CDMA radio and an LTE radio, so it does need a SIM card. But because it's got the CDMA radio running at the same time, it drains a lot of battery. But obviously AT&T doesn't. Oh, it does, but because it's LTE. But anyway, so yeah, those of you who followed CES know that Nokia announced the 900 for AT&T as an exclusive. I hope they drop the exclusivity, but we're also hearing about a device called the 910, which might be Europe only, which I really hope it is, because it's a 900 with a 12 megapixel camera. So I'm not sure if it's the same camera that they used in the N8, because that is a stellar camera. It's like, what? I've got a friend who replaced his dedicated video camera with, it's not dedicated, it's like a point and shoot, it's shot HD. It shot good HD. It was one of the Panasonic Lumix cameras. But he replaced it with his N8. He doesn't put a SIM card in it. He uses it purely as a camera. He keeps it on a tripod in his room for when he shoots videos. So, I mean, that's how good the camera is. I'm not sure if they're going to show an updated version of that sensor, because that did stick out a bit at the back of the N8. But I didn't care, if I'm honest. If someone gave me an N8, I'd be happy. I mean, it's getting Symbian Bell now, so it'd be nice to use it, see what that's like. But anyway, yeah, the 910 seems to be a European only, if it ever does come to fruition. So, but one of those things is Nokia seem to putting pentaband radios in their phone, so they will work anywhere there's a GSM network. Those of you in the US who watch, if you're in T-Mobile, you try and import a phone, you probably won't get 3G, because T-Mobile USA use the 1700 megahertz ORS. I don't know, I put it in air quotes, it's a real thing. They use the 1700 megahertz ORS spectrum, which is not really used around the rest of the world. But the 1700 megahertz bands are covered in the pentaband radio. So stuff, if you like ordered an N8 or an E7 or the N9, it would work. So even if it is a UK European exclusive, you could import it to the US and make it work anyway, which is not the same with the 900. A, because of LTE, and B, 850 isn't really used anywhere else. We usually use 900. Alright guys, that's my MWC predictions. Comment down below if you think I'm right or wrong and what you think. You can get me on the website, which is www.mobile-dom.co.uk. You can get me on Twitter, which is twitter.com/mobile_dom. You can get me on Google+, which is g+.to/Domenico Lamberti. By the way guys, I can't guarantee those two social networks accounts will always be tech related, seeing as they are my personal accounts, but I will try my best. I do personalized consultations for phones, tablets, I don't know, if you want a new rabbit. I have a business card. I don't think I've actually even read these, or I haven't in a long time. It's got my number. Oh, wow. But yeah, the address for that is domenico@mobile-dom.co.uk. So until next time, guys, peace.